Hi, this is Jennifer Wehage Barrera, and this is a presentation on games and simulations in education. Look at these two kids. They look incredibly bored, but why are they so bored? It's simply because they are not engaged in the lesson. Traditional education has often been considered passive learning. The teacher gives a lecture while students listen and take notes. They may need to memorize the information, but they're not involved in the lesson itself. Traditional lecture and listen strategy has been in place in education for many, many years, but it's not considered the best practice anymore. What is considered the best practice is interactive learning. In interactive learning, students have hands-on, real-world experience with the information. Students are invited to participate in conversations. They might use technology, they might not, and they might have some role-playing exercises. There are two types of interactive learning that we will talk about today. Games are designed to teach people about a skill and a subject at the same time. Simulations are designed to recreate some type of reality while incorporating instructional elements. Both of these can be done independently or with other students. They could be used with or without technology. First, let's look at games. Games teach subject matter content through play. Play is what's important here. Play is used to teach the skills as well. The user may not even realize that he's learning an actual skill and may just be enjoying the game itself. The big benefit is just that. There is learning going on, although it may just look like a game. Albert Einstein was even once quoted as saying, "Games are the most elevated form of investigation." Think about that for a second. Some of the skills that we are learning through games are simple: spatial awareness, probability, matching similar properties. Do the colors match? Do the numbers match? Do the ideas match? Students and adults alike would also need to consider their own physical and mental limits within the games. And in the idea of group games, cooperation is certainly ideal. In non-digital individual games, like card games and puzzles, which have been around for a very long time, the user determines how the game should be played, if the game is too difficult, and the user develops his or her own skills and knowledge at the pace that's right for them. They don't have to be overtly described. You don't have to play a game of solitaire and say you're talking about probability, or play a different game and say this is about spatial awareness. The idea is that the user just enjoys the activity and gets better at the skills and content as the game gets played. In cooperative and competitive games, in the non-digital version, students need to learn to work together. In the upper two pictures, students are playing board games and probably learning some content as well. In the bottom two pictures, students are working competitively on the left and cooperatively on the right. A simple game of tag, as shown in the picture on the right, could develop a student's spatial awareness, need for determining velocity, how fast should they run to catch that person. Is that other person more attainable than the person that's further away or less quick? Am I wearing the right kind of shoes for this? Am I too far from the safe area? All of those things are simply played in a game, but are developing skills at the same time. Like mentioned before, in cooperative and competitive games, students learn together. They learn through competition. They learn through cooperation. They learn without even realizing it. In these types of games, there could be physical, mental, or both skills being developed. Pretty much any subject or skill could be turned into a game, and difficulty can be added or reduced for each player. Student-created games are so beneficial. The creator of the game must have a thorough knowledge of the subject or skill in order to create an accurate game. It's a way for teachers to have their students accountable for learning the content, and it's fun. The student in making the board game that's shown here obviously has read the story of Mice and Men and has a deep knowledge of the content. Here are a few more. Students of all ages using digital or non-digital versions of student-created games can be a part of this. Simulations, on the other case, are reenactments. They teach subject matter through doing an actual event, not just playing a game. The user, again, may not even realize how much she's learning. A clear benefit is that there's little risk in cost or damage to people or property if some sort of mistake is made. In individual simulations that are non-digital, a person may be looking to gain some sort of skill that's a personal goal. It can go at their own pace. It might be better if the skill is simulated rather than done in real life. And sometimes this is considered just practice, like boxing by yourself. In this case, there's no harm if the man on either side of the screen is shot. In group situations, again, collaborative skills are being developed. They may not realize that they are learning anything actually. And the rules of the simulations can be determined by each participant. Historical reenactments can develop deeper knowledge of that time period. Mock trials, for example. Business skills, where students in this case are learning how to run a restaurant. Medical reenactments are much better to be practiced when no life is actually threatened. Disaster preparation can prepare us, get us ready for an earthquake or some other awful event like a terrorist attack. And in both of these cases, no harm is being done to the participants. Real-world situations like having a baby or texting while driving, things like that can be simulated, and again, no harm is done to the participants. We can have out-of-this-world situations like traveling to Mars. Obviously, we can't do that in real life with our students, so recreating that on Earth is very valuable. Virtual games can be adjusted for any age and skill level. They can be played individually or with others, and like with non-digital games, the intention is for the user to develop skills and knowledge of subject matter. Here are some examples. This is a low-level virtual game. Moving on, you get the same sort of skills. My favorite, Live High School Your Way. What decisions would be made by the participants of this virtual game? Virtual simulations are less expensive, repeatable, and there's little risk involved. They can be done individually or with others. And again, like non-digital simulations, the intention is for the user to develop those skills and subject matter. You can learn how to drive a car. You could crash it. No one gets hurt. You can explore a volcano, which you couldn't necessarily do in real life. You could go into a heart. But again, you don't need to do that in real life, or not able to. You can conduct experiments that may be too devastating if there was a difficult chemical reaction. You can go to the bottom of the ocean. You can't do that in real life. So what are some of the new things? Here are the top 10 educational games for 2017. Totally Gross, Fat Brain, Rory Story Cubes, Simon, Think Fun Zingo Sight Words, Fat Brain Toys, Peek-a-Doodle Do, Learning Resources, Scrambled States, I Spy, Sequence for Kids. This particular site has all of it broken down and able to be purchased. Again, all of these are to help the student or the child to develop different skills, all while having a good time doing it. Real-world simulations, like this one from Educational Simulations, helps you to become a person from a different time period. It's one of those games where you couldn't go back in time and be an Egyptian person. of in Cleopatra's age. You couldn't go back in time and be a female immigrant in a civil rights era. You can choose exactly where you'd like to go, or you can anonymously have the computer choose for you. Another interesting site is one called Surgery Squad. In this case, medical students and nurses could practice their skills and perform procedures without actually having to do the procedure on a patient. Here, for example, is a tonsillectomy where each step is put into place.
And the anesthesiologist will help put him completely under. Help me out and place a breathing tube in our patient's nose to assist with breathing while we operate.
In Surgery Squad, the user has to actually perform the different procedures. The site itself will walk the person through each of the skills,
that opens the mouth, depresses the tongue, and locks into position,
all while explaining each of the different needs.
That should give us plenty of room. Now we have to reach in and grab the infected tonsil with the tonsil forceps. We need to pull it to the side to expose the connective tissue. Can you do that for me? Nicely done. With the tonsil extended out, we need to place this electrocautery device.
Final thoughts. Games and simulations of any sort are beneficial to learning. They can be individual or done with others. They can be non-digital or virtual. Children and adults are able to learn practically any skill or any subject through games and simulations. It's actually more interesting than the typical teaching style. Real life and virtual activities can be great for all learners. Here's an example of cooking, auto repair, driving. And with that in mind, what will be the future of virtual learning? Thank you.